Hello students. Today we are going to learn about the age of imperialism. We'll learn about what that is, what it means, and how imperialism shapes the world. So how it all fits in. Remember, we had done in school together, which seems like such a long time ago, the age of exploration, when people got on boats and explored the world. We also did the Industrial Revolution the last 2 weeks, which, as a quick summary, is when machines started taking over and doing a lot of the work of people. And that also was when resources started becoming really important, like coal and iron and steel and oil. Now we are going to be learning about the rise of nationalism, but more importantly, imperialism. So the first question that you should write down this definition. It's not really a question, but nationalism. Nationalism is the feeling of cultural pride, loyalty, and patriotism to one's country. Some of this is good. Sometimes people take nationalism to an extreme and you get some very sometimes racist undertones. You can sometimes get some very cultural undertones where people think one culture is better than another, but that's the basic idea of nationalism. Imperialism. This is the next thing that if you're taking notes, you should write this definition down. Imperialism is the domination by one country of the political, economic, and cultural life of another country or region. So it's when one country totally takes over another country and tries to make them like themselves, tries to eradicate their previous way of life, or tries to take all the national resources from the smaller, weaker country. The big political powers that will be practicing imperialism during this time period will be Portugal, Germany, Russia, and then the big ones will be Great Britain, Spain, France, and the United States. Who is going to be getting imperialized? Which parts of the world will get imperialized? Well, as we'll learn throughout this unit, all of Africa gets imperialized, which is a lot of the reason why Africa is carved up in the countries it is today, which we'll talk more about. A lot of India will get imperialized, specifically by Great Britain, and we'll talk about the ramifications of that. And then most of Asia will get imperialized, and we'll talk about that as well. Something that is not on there is Latin America, which gets imperialized by the United States, which we will definitely talk a little bit more about in this class, but also you'll learn a lot about that next year in US history. All right. So why imperialize is the next question you're probably asking yourself. What would be the benefits to taking over another country? Well, there are 3 big reasons that we're going to go over. Reason 1 that you should know or write down is that as nationalism rises, it prompts all of these countries to build empires in their competitive quest for power. So what that means, or what that looks like, is if one country starts growing and taking over other smaller countries, another country is going to be competitive and want to do that as well. The second reason is that because all of these countries are now industrialized, they demand raw materials, and they also are demanding markets to sell their finished goods. So, for instance, if a country is starting to build cars, one thing that you need is rubber. Well, rubber comes from a rubber plant, and that doesn't really grow in a lot of these European countries. So they try to find a smaller country where rubber plants grow to take it over, and then once they do and they have access to that, now they need a place to sell their cars. So they're going to try to obviously sell cars in their own country, but then they might try to take over another country where they can exclusively sell their cars. It's a simple example, but it's that kind of example over and over again that we're going to see. And number 3 is that, and this is sad but true, is that a lot of these countries that take over smaller countries or weaker countries are going to feel both racial and cultural superiority. A lot of this will be inspired by Europeans to impose their cultures on distant lands. All right, so we covered in this first video what imperialism is, who the major powers were, who actually or what parts of the world will get imperialized, and why countries would invest time to imperialize other countries. So these are the things that you should take away from this first video on imperialism. Thank you for watching, and we will